East people. Hello, I'm Debbie Kay, Vice President of the League of Women Voters of Portland. Welcome to our Voter Education Forum. The League of Women Voters is a nonpartisan organization that works to help citizens make informed choices. We do not endorse any candidate or any party, but rather we give voters the information they need to make good selections of candidates and decide about ballot measures. Membership information is on the back table, also on our website, lwvpdx.org, along with other voter resources both on the table and at the website. We appreciate support from Metro East Community Media, Paloma Clothing, the Multnomah Bar Foundation, the Weiss Foundation, and the Carol and Velma Sailing Foundation. Plus, we thank Multnomah County government for the use of this boardroom. We are here on the occupied sacred lands and waters of the indigenous Chinookan people. We will never be as effective a steward as they, though we can certainly aspire to be so with everything that we do. If you have not yet registered to vote, the last day to do so is October 16th. Contact the County Elections Office or register online with the Oregon Secretary of State. Ballots will be mailed soon, beginning October 17th. Tonight, we have the two candidates running for Multnomah County Auditor, followed by discussions of Oregon Measure 102 on housing finance, Metro Measure 26-199 on affordable housing, and Oregon Measure 105 on Oregon as a sanctuary state. For the auditor race, we are delighted to partner with the City Club of Portland. Here is Julia Meyer, Executive Director of City Club.
Good evening. Welcome. Thank you, Debbie. On behalf of City Club, I just really want to welcome you all this evening. And I'm really thrilled that we're partnering with the League of Women Voters on this debate. I'm also really excited about how many women are in the room, so welcome. Tonight's debate is really the perfect embodiment of the shared mission of our two organizations. And maybe no kid, though I'll be curious to hear from you two, wakes up and goes to first grade and then comes home and tells their parents that they want to grow up and be an auditor. But I think for those of us who are interested in local government, we know how important those positions are. We're lucky tonight to hear from two really outstanding candidates and really to be part of a lot of broad and rich and thoughtful debates and discussions leading up to Election Day next month. And like the League of Women Voters, City Club has a full calendar of events to help Oregonians cast their votes in November. Just visit pdxcityclub.org to learn more and to sign up. Thank you to the League of Women Voters for collaborating with us on this debate. We appreciate your thoughtful partnership tonight and really throughout the year. Now I'm going to turn it over to Linda Mather, who's going to begin the debate. Thank you.
Thank you. I am Linda Mather, and I am the moderator for this evening. A few housekeeping things before we start. As indicated, this is an evening for civil discourse. We want to talk about the ideas. Only Metro East Media is authorized to record this forum. Therefore, you may not, as audience members, use any type of image or sound recording. And of course, please silence your phones. We're tight on time, as always, so please also hold your applause till the end. As time allows, we welcome audience questions legibly written on 3x5 cards. They will be distributed throughout the audience as well as picked up by friendly volunteers. So if you have any questions, please feel free. Please address your questions to both speakers because each will have a chance to answer. This forum will be available for on-demand viewing from a link on our website, lwvpdx.org. And to view the forums on local access cable TV, see the playback schedule on the website. And for those of you in the audience, there's also a sheet in the back. Now, I need to pause for 5 seconds to make sure all the technology is working. And we can go. All right, so we are now going to focus on the auditor, and to my left are the two candidates, Scott Learn and Jennifer McGuirk. The candidates will have a 1 minute to respond to questions. They will also have 1 minute for opening and closing remarks. I will switch back and forth so that they each have a chance to answer first. We have timekeepers in the front. They will signal a 5-second warning and then a stop when your time has expired. All right, we're ready to begin with the opening, and Scott, you get us started.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Scott Learn, and I'm running for Multnomah County Auditor for 3 reasons.
Hit the red button, sorry. That's the one that never wants to work right. Try again.
All right. Hey, that's better. Good evening, everyone. My name is Scott Learn, and I'm running for Multnomah County Auditor for 3 reasons. Number one is I really believe in the power of performance auditing. I've seen it firsthand where I'm an auditor at the state. I've worked on audits involving the welfare system, the foster care system, alternative schools, and now high poverty schools at Portland Public Schools. And those audits have made a significant difference. The second reason I'm running is for the last decade, the Multnomah County Audit Office is not focused on the services that matter most. That includes physical health care, mental health care, the jails, the DA's office, social services, and I want to change that. And the third and final reason is I believe I have the experience to make that change. In addition to my experience at the state, I was a financial auditor at Price Waterhouse in San Francisco, and I've been was a reporter for 23 years, including 17 in this county. Thank you for coming. I appreciate the opportunity to talk with you.
And Jennifer, your opening?
Thank you. Is mine on? Is it on now? Okay. I'm not a microphone expert. My name is Jennifer McGuirk, and I'm running for Multnomah County Auditor. I really appreciate all of you coming out tonight to learn about this important role. I'm running to continue our office's tradition of supporting accountable, transparent government and to bring a new needed focus on equity and community engagement in the auditor's work. The core of the county is to provide social services, health, and public safety, and so I will prioritize those programs that directly impact people's health and safety. Let me give you an example of what I'll look at. Back in 2015, there was an audit done internally in the sheriff's office that found disproportionate use of force against people of color in our jails. Disability Rights Oregon has also come out with a report showing deplorable conditions in our jails for people with mental health issues. In one case, a man pulled out one of his own teeth. How do we prevent these things from happening, and how do we care for the most vulnerable in our community? I think we need to stand up for them. Auditing is how I stand up, and I hope you will stand up by voting for me. Thank you.
Thank you. And Jennifer, if you would continue with, what is your experience in management? Describe your management style. It's on. Is that better? Try this. John is going to.
So Jennifer, there's another button there that's a mute button, so you have 2 buttons. If you push the mute button. It mutes everyone. Yeah, so Linda.
I don't have a mute. Oh, I have a button that works. All right, so let me try again. What is your experience in management? Describe your management style.
Okay, so mine's still on. I have managed a variety of interdisciplinary teams, mostly grant development teams that often included management, such as faculty members, program directors, people on the ground doing the work, and myself guiding them along to talk about what success would look like, how to develop and manage a budget, and look at what our outcomes would be at the end. It's very similar to what we do every day in the auditor's office. My management style is collaborative. I see myself as the auditor as being the one who's the champion for my staff, who always has their back, and who supports them to really dig into issues so that we can report back to the public on the issues that are most important to them, such as how we're paying your taxpayer dollars and what kind of results we're getting. Thank you.
And Scott, your management style?
Thank you. Yes, my main management experience has come in the Audits division at Secretary of State's office. I've been promoted twice, and I'm now leading the largest audit team in the office. We're auditing Portland Public Schools and the Oregon Department of Education. So I think that shows some confidence in my management skill. The my management style, I really emphasize collegiality. I believe very strongly that everyone on the team, no matter their level of experience, has great ideas to contribute. I really want to listen a lot more than I talk, and I do that, and I think we come up with a lot better audits and a lot better teams that way.
Thank you. Scott, what are your top priorities for areas that should be audited? Are these in or missing from the county's current audit plan?
So in a broad sense, my three top priorities are mental health, because it ties to so many of our problems, mental health care, availability of it. The second is just the justice system broadly. Multnomah County is the largest provider of justice system services, and then housing and homelessness. So within that, I have specific ideas I'd like to tackle first in all of those areas. Just for example, for mental health, I would like to explore the mental health services that the county provides in the schools. I've heard a lot of concerns from teachers about the level of access to those services. I think there's some bureaucratic obstacles. And I think that'll also get us out into the schools, including in East County, so we can really see some of the trends that are happening. Schools are a wonderful place to see what's happening in society.
And Jennifer, your top priorities?
Sure. So when I launched my campaign in July of 2017, I did so with 3 audit priorities that have been consistent throughout that time. First, as I described in my opening remarks, I'm concerned about conditions in our jails, and I'd like to look at the conditions going on there. This would be the first of a series of audits to look at our justice system. Secondly, I'd like to look at what's going on with housing and homeless services from the perspective of those who are trying to access services. We're spending more than $50 million on this each year. We need to know what kind of outcomes we're getting for our money. And third, I'd like to look at what's going on in our adult care homes for seniors and people with disabilities. We've heard reports that the state database of conditions in those homes has left out a lot of big problems. We should know what's going on in them. There's over 600 that contract with the county, and I'd like to look into that as well.
Okay, both of you have plans, and things happen. What would cause you to change your audit schedule of priorities? Jennifer, start us.
I don't know that I would change my priorities. I've left room in there to include new ideas that I hear from the community. Right now, the top issues I'm hearing about are related to housing and homelessness, but I've also heard about people's concerns about how the opioid epidemic is affecting pressure on county services, so that could be an area to look at. When pressing issues come up, we also have other avenues for looking into them, such as doing complaint-driven investigations, and also me making sure that I know what's going on in the county so that I can talk with the leadership, the county commissioners, and make sure they're looking into issues quickly. I'll do that by having an organizational ombudsman who will be another avenue for employees to report concerns about issues going on in our county, such as what was happening in the Unity Center, and also to report discrimination and harassment they're facing so that we can do quick investigations into those issues and not disrupt our audit schedule.
And Scott?
Yeah, 2 things. One is I want to be careful. I'd be coming in as an outsider, and I want to hear what the staff of the county audit office have to say. I want to hear what their priorities are. I want to hear their arguments for it, and I want to make sure that we're going after the best audit that's out there. The second thing is I think the auditor needs to be much more of a troubleshooter, and I think that's a duty that I can take on well, given my experience as a reporter. For example, when the Unity Emergency Psychiatric Center had a lot of problems, the whistleblower was reporting that to the auditor, and as far as I know, the auditor didn't follow up on that or do anything about it. That's going to change if I'm elected. I think the auditor has responsibility, especially when something is as critical to life and safety, to follow up on that and make sure policies are being followed. I think if he had done that, it could have averted a lot of the problems there. I think he would have identified that some of the problems Multnomah County was hearing about and thinking they didn't have jurisdiction over should be reported to the state, and that would have cut off a lot of problems at the pass.
Thank you. And before we continue, audience, I remind you that you are free to turn in some questions if you would like to do so. You're not supposed to just sit there. Any rate, okay, Scott, do you consider the county's current financial controls adequate and cost-effective?
Well, I don't know in detail. I have to say I'm impressed by their budget. The county budget, unlike a lot of budgets that I've looked at both the state and on my current audit, details performance standards for each program and says whether or not they've met them. That's an impressive attribute in their budget, and that's a good control. I really like that. It's a $2 billion enterprise, so I think there's potentially lots of savings there. The place I'd look first for that is in the contracting that the county does. A lot of the county services are provided with contractors. The audit office has done a lot of work on that, but has had trouble gaining traction on improving contract services, and I want to take a run at that perhaps first with addiction services.
Jennifer?
From what I've seen in our audits, there's always room for improving financial controls, but by and large, our line staff and management try really hard to make sure they have good processes and procedures to keep people, for example, who are putting new employees into the system and making sure they can't also create fictitious employees. They've got some good controls for that kind of thing. One issue that we're up against, though, is that the county is transitioning to a new enterprise resource system, which is called Workday, and that will essentially change the way we do all of our financial systems, all of our human resources. It touches contracting, it touches purchasing. So I think it's really important that we stay on top of that as we're going through this transition to make sure that we have good financial controls going forward. People in my office have been serving as liaisons to all of the various committees that are working on the Workday implementation to make sure we can stay on top of the work they're doing so that the people's money is always safe and being stewarded appropriately.
Okay, Jennifer, what are some of the major risks facing the county? How would you structure an audit to determine whether county departments are adequately addressing those risks?
Interestingly, we actually have an audit going on right now of our risk fund and how risk management happens at the county. I'm not working on that audit, but the two individuals who are include a CPA and a certified fraud examiner. So I feel we're in good hands for looking at those kinds of issues. The county has not done a good job historically of looking at risk as something that touches every part of the county. Things have been very siloed. I think as we're doing our audits, we need to look across the board and see where departments should be working together. The risks that affect the health department are often very similar to those that affect our social services programs and so forth. So I want us to keep a global perspective as we're doing our audits. We always look for potential risk and make sure that we're looking at things in terms of keeping the county financially safe and viable for the future. Our county commission has done a good job historically in making sure that we have adequate reserves, but as we're facing pressures coming down from the federal government, that's something we'll need to keep a close eye on.
And Scott?
Yeah, I think the primary risk that the county faces, it's our social safety net, and I think that when the programs don't work well, don't perform well, which we're performance auditors, that's what we're trained to look for, that is really leaving a lot of services, access to services on the table and a lot of people without help. That's the main thing I want to look at, is look at the services that the county provides to vulnerable people, whether it's in the justice system, the healthcare system, or social services. And I know that if we look at them in depth as performance auditors, we're going to find problems that can be solved, and we're going to improve those services dramatically. That's happened at the state, and I'm very confident it will happen at the county as well if we get down on the ground level. So the risk is not performing as well as in critical programs could.
And Scott, if you would start us on, how do you decide what aspects to address when designing an audit?
Well, let's just take an example, I guess. If at the state, for example, right now we're auditing Portland Public Schools and ODE. So we look at what are the areas where if we study that, we can make the biggest difference. And so at PPS, we're saying, okay, how effectively are they spending their money, and where are some potential savings that could go to the classroom? So we want to get that impact of going to the classroom. Then we're also looking at how they're serving students in high poverty schools and historically underserved students, because that's where they've had the biggest problem with performance. So it's kind of looking at where are they having their biggest challenges. Let's go straight at that and see what we can do to improve it.
Jennifer?
When we scope our audits, I always want us to be looking at what is the outcome we want for people? How are the vulnerable people this program is supposed to serve being affected by it? So that goes to the statement I said at the beginning, where I really want to work on how programs are affecting people's health and safety. When we scope an audit, we really want to look carefully at not just outcomes, but the procedures and processes that are happening. And the best way to do this is to talk to people who are on the receiving end of services, as well as the line staff, and to look to best practices that could be here in the county or elsewhere, and see where we're measuring up and where we're not. Then we try to make recommendations that can be implemented feasibly, and that will lead to really progressive, positive change, not just for the people receiving services, but kind of across the county, to make sure that our taxpayer dollars are being spent in an effective way.
I think this question is a bit of a follow-up, but let's try it, Jennifer. Does an auditor have a role in solving social problems, such as homelessness or diversity?
I think our biggest role is in pointing out and naming where things are going wrong. We also try to always recognize where management at the county is doing a good job as well. It's important that we praise where praise is due. But I think some of the most powerful work we can do is simply by pointing out where systems are failing so that systems change can occur. Because the issues we see aren't because one person has made a mistake. It's because the whole system needs to be reworked and improved so that it can be better for everyone.
And Scott.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with Jennifer more on that. I think we do need to find the problems and we do need to find solutions. I have a lot of experience doing that, both as a reporter and an auditor. As a reporter, I've looked at ESL services. I've looked at everything from the Hanford nuclear reservation to, constitutional violations of people who are getting issued citations by police on the street. As an auditor, I've looked at temporary assistance for needy families, foster care, alternative education, the state's attempt to collect $3.5 billion in delinquent debt. I've looked at a lot of big, complicated issues, found problems, and also found great solutions and recommendations along with other people on my audit teams. We've had great audit teams at the state. So that's the experience I would like to bring to the county.
Okay, and Scott, how will the auditor's office change under your direction from its current status?
As I mentioned in my opening statements, for the last 10 years, there has not been a focus on the ground, in-depth audits of the services that matter most. It's mainly been kind of procedural and administrative audits with some notable exceptions, including a great audit that Jennifer did on animal services. If I am elected, that's going to change. We're going to focus on the services that matter most to the clients of Multnomah County, to the taxpayers of Multnomah County, to the people of Multnomah County. And that's how I believe I have the experience to do that well, and that's what I want to do.
Jennifer?
If I'm elected, the office will not change in terms of personnel. I hope that everyone on the team will stay because we have an exceptional team with certified fraud examiners, CPAs, other certified internal auditors in addition to myself. But I'll bring on board an organizational ombudsman to provide another way for employees to raise issues that are happening across the county that perhaps management or people in HR have not been receptive to, so that we can improve the effectiveness of government. Because if people are at work feeling safe and like they're able to do their jobs well, it will have better returns for all of us. They'll be more effective in serving us. I will also bring an equity focus, which means I'll put an equity lens on top of all of our methodology that currently exists. So we'll always be looking at who's affected by this issue but isn't at the table. How do we make sure they're part of the conversation and the recommendations and solutions? How do we look at how this system isn't working for the most vulnerable people that our taxpayer dollars are going toward?
Thank you. I think one of the difficulties for the audience, and I may be speaking for myself, is we don't really understand auditing. So could I ask you, Jennifer, to start us with what are performance audits?
In my typical stump speech, I start by saying, I'm a performance auditor, and when I tell people that, they're like, what's that? So I'll give my little brief summary. We spend our days digging for facts. We do data analysis, we observe on the ground, we interview people, we research best practices. all to find out how the operation is performing and how it could do better so that we can more effectively and efficiently spend taxpayer dollars to get real results for the people who are receiving services. The county really focuses on safety net services, so that's really what our audits focus on as well. I hope that clarifies a bit.
Okay, and Scott, can you give us 101,
Sure. So
another version?
yeah, we kind of look at, okay, we're going in and we're auditing a program. Say we look at how caseworkers in TANF are helping their clients. We say, what's supposed to happen? What's supposed to happen is they're supposed to build really detailed job and development plans for them. What's actually happening? They're not doing much of that, if any at all. They're having one-word plans that say, or 3 words, get a job, and that's it. We then ask, okay, we've found out what's supposed to happen, what's actually happening. Well, why is what's supposed to be happening not happening? Well, the caseloads are ridiculously high. There's been cuts in funding for mental health care and physical health care, et cetera, et cetera. There's also some bureaucratic obstacles to the caseworkers getting to the people who they need to serve. And then why does it matter? Well, in the case of TANF, it's because we have some of the most vulnerable people in the state who aren't getting services they need that would, dramatically help them improve, and this program is supposed to provide. So that's what we do. We find problems, and we also find why those problems are happening so we can make concrete recommendations to solve them.
And I think the other thing that we are all impressed with is we have 2 very strong candidates, and we're having troubles. I usually don't like this question, but Scott, what is the difference between you and Jennifer?
I think to me, the reason I ran is because I do feel that I'm kind of well built for this job, given my experience as a reporter, as an auditor, as a financial auditor in the past, given my connections in the community as a reporter that I've developed and familiarity with the county, and the ability to just source well and talk with people and listen well and dig and find out what the biggest problems are and how they can how we can tackle them. So that's why I'm running, because I think my qualifications suit me well for the job, and I'm eager to get started doing that.
And Jennifer?
I think the difference is I already work at the county. I already understand the county. I already have the trust of employees at the county. AFSCME Local 88, which represents the majority of the county employees, have endorsed me. I'm also a very exceptional auditor, and like Scott, have won national awards for my work. This isn't just about being a good auditor. This is about being a leader and being willing to step out and say, these are the issues we need to look at. I was the person who really brought the concept of equity into this race. And when Scott told me he was going to run, he told me he really liked my agenda and my vision. So I think I've been leading since I entered, and I hope that you will support me, because I want to serve you. I want to make sure we do audits that really impact people's lives. I have a passion for auditing that I don't think any other candidate has matched in this race.
And Jennifer, what does it take to audit in a place that can be adversarial, such as the sheriff's office?
I think it takes a few things. One, you really need to know your stuff. So before we go into the sheriff's office, I'm going to make sure we've gotten some really good training in auditing that area, as well as sort of training that some of the sheriff's deputies go through. I think it also takes having a really strong backbone and knowing that you're looking for facts, you're digging in, and nothing will dissuade you from that. It also takes partnership. Acknowledging the progress that our sheriff has made since the prior sheriff's administration to really strengthen that internal culture and really try to look at how we can improve conditions in our jails. I think you have to acknowledge the progress that's been made and really talk about how auditing and showing where progress still needs to happen is beneficial to the sheriff, because we also will talk about the progress that's occurred under his watch.
And Scott?
Can you repeat the question again?
Sure, if I can find it. What does it take to audit in a place that can be adversarial, such as the sheriff's office?
Yeah, I've had some experience with adversarial agencies. The Department of Human Services is pretty tired of getting audited by us, and they come at us pretty hard with findings. So we've got to be really, really solid and ready to kind of, be emphatic and say, no, this is what we believe. We're independent auditors, so we can't get let ourselves get pushed around by agency folks or politicians. Also, as a reporter for 23 years, I had a lot of people, in my face trying to dissuade me from writing tough stories. So I'm pretty used to handling that. As Jennifer mentioned, I think we can avoid a lot of that by informing people along the way, informing our auditees of what we're finding and the solutions that we see, and also letting them know in no uncertain terms that the reason we're auditing them is that their service is incredibly important. Everybody's going to have problems that we find. We rarely go into a place and find no problems. So we're just saying, look, we are trying to improve a critical service.
Okay, we turn now to the closings, and Scott, you'll start us off, please.
All right, let me find my close. Thank you very much. I want to close with 3 promises. Promise 1, if I'm elected, the county auditor will return to focusing on the services that matter most. We will dig deep to improve those services regardless of opposition. Promise 2, I will bring an independent outside perspective to the job. Our office will be the eyes and ears of the public, taxpayers and county clients. We will be impatient with business as usual. And promise number 3, I will be devoted to the job. I'm 55 years old now and I have a long track record, but the skill I value most is the ability to listen to others, whether it's insiders, outsiders, critics, or advocates who have great ideas about improving government. I promise to bring that devotion to the job every day. So thanks so much to all of you for coming, and thanks to the League and the City Club for having us. If you have any tips, please give me an email or a call, and also please vote for me. Thanks.
Jennifer?
I want to thank you all again for spending some of your evening here to learn and talk about auditing. I want to thank the City Club and the League for sponsoring this event. One of the rare treats of having a competitive race is that we get to talk with people about auditing and make sure people know that they have an elected auditor. If you vote for me, please know that this will not be the last conversation I have with you. I've been holding coffees around the county. This Saturday I'll be in Rockwood, and I will continue to do that if elected because I want you to know that you can hold me accountable, that I will always follow the facts and report back to you on what's happening, and that I want your ideas and to have you be a part of the conversation so that you can work with me to create the change we need in our government. I appreciate your consideration, and I hope you all will vote. Thank you.
And thank both of you. And thanks also to the City Club for partnering with us, for Metro East Community Media for recording, and for all the volunteers helping behind the scenes. Please check our website, lwvpdx.org, to view all our forums and for TV replay information. For more information, pick up our nonpartisan voters guide at your local public library, at New Seasons Market or Meals on Wheels Dining Center, and in the back of the room for people who are in the room. Also, you can go to vote411.org to see how your ballot might look. Election Day is November 6th. As in all Oregon elections, you will receive a mail-in ballot. If you don't, check with the county to make sure that your registration is current. Ballots must be mailed back early or delivered to an official drop-off site anywhere in Oregon no later than 3 p.m. on Tuesday, November 6th. Postmarks themselves do not count. Thank you for watching, audience. Thank you for being here. Please be informed and remember that your vote is very important. Do all you can to make sure that your friends, neighbors, family also vote. We will now take a short break before we turn to the one Metro issue and one Oregon issue on affordable housing. Thank you. Thank you.